I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man. My guest is Laura Wharton. Laura is a senior associate solicitor within JMW's employment law team. Now, dare I ask you about the employment bill, because I think this was in the Queen's speech in 2019, and have we heard anything since?
It's a really good question, Dom. Thank you. Unfortunately, there's been hardly any progress, if at all, since the Queen's speech in 2019. But what we've actually got is a second reading coming up in March. I think it's around the 26th of March that we've got that second reading. And that's going to be really interesting, Dom, because effectively what we've got here is a vast array of topics that the government want considering. For example, some of them include things like the establishment of a single labour market enforcement agency to try to protect vulnerable workers. We've got other considerations around whether there's going to be an obligation on employers to pass over all of the employees' tips that they earn when they're on a shift. And there is talk as well about a potential new statutory right around 12 weeks of neonatal care. So all those considerations and other additional stuff as well, it's a long list. We're going to obviously see what comes out of that second reading, and it's going to be very interesting.
And can we expect any changes in the law in terms of employing new employees and equally dismissing people as well?
Yes, we've had, because again, unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a situation with right to work checks where they had to shake up the system and how that process was undertaken. Effectively, what happened was all of the right to work checks went onto a remote based system, and there was calls from the government that they were potentially going to move that back to the original position around the 5th of April. Because of the pressure from the people out on the front line, businesses, recruitment agencies, it's been decided by the government that they're not going to stop allowing that digital checking. And this means that we've just had released some guidance around the digital identity checks and how to do it compliantly. So businesses need to make sure if they're doing it that way that they keep on top of that. I think the other thing to be thinking about is, again, another reading of a bill. It's a second reading like the employment bill, but this one is around potentially stopping businesses from making individuals redundant who are returning from maternity leave. And what that could do, if it's brought into legislation, is it could prevent businesses from making people redundant for the first 6 months after they've returned from maternity.
And just in terms of what to expect in 2022, I know that, and sorry to say the COVID word again, but I know that COVID's had an impact on the gender pay gap. And what else can we expect in 2022?
That's right. We've got the gender pay gap reporting done. That was paused again, unfortunately, because of COVID-19. There's obviously been commentary around how successful or unsuccessful the reporting has been. But as of this year, we've got back into obligations. What does that mean? It simply means that the public sector will have to meet a deadline on their reporting by the 30th of March and the private sector by the 4th of April. The other thing to think about as well is that some businesses have actually already started talking about ethnicity pay gap reporting. That's not an obligation at the moment, Dom, but it may well be that the government start looking into that as well. I think the only other thing to mention would be the budget. Obviously, every April we have the budget, and what tends to come out of that is the statutory increases in pay around national minimum wage, statutory sick pay and family-friendly rights, maternity and paternity. Of course, businesses need to get those payments correct, because the last thing we want to do is be hit with a name and shaming for breach of national minimum wage and or a fine. So it's keeping your eye on the budget when that occurs in April.
Thank you for your insight, Laura, and I know that you're ready and willing to speak to employers about any of those issues that you've highlighted and other areas of employment law as well. So if you'd like to contact Laura and the employment team, you can email insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.